Welcome to another episode of Progress, Potential, and Possibilities, discussions with fascinating people designing a better tomorrow for all of us. I'm your host, Ira Pastor.
Welcome everybody again to another episode of our show, bringing you another fascinating guest today involved in creating a better and safer tomorrow for all of us. Today we have the honor of being joined by Lydie Evrard, who is the Deputy Director General and Head of the Department of Nuclear Safety and Security at the International Atomic Energy Agency, where her group is focused on the protection of people, society, and the environment from the harmful effects of ionizing radiation, whether the cause may be an unsafe act, a security breach, and her team ultimately aims to provide strong, sustainable, and visible global nuclear safety and security framework. Her Department of Nuclear Safety was created back in 1996, initially as a response to the Chernobyl nuclear accident. Most recently, you may have seen her in the international media as her team has been monitoring sites like the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine. Prior to joining the IAEA, Ms. Evrard held the role of commissioner at the French Nuclear Safety Authority. She started her career in the field of engineering, initially joining the French Ministry of Energy as an engineer. Worked extensively in the regulatory field for the last 25 years in positions including unit head at the Industry, Research and Environment direction of France's Ministry of the Environment, deputy head of the Paris Region Division of the Nuclear Safety Authority, and subsequently head of the authority's waste decommissioning, fuel cycle facilities, research facilities, and contaminated soil remediation. At the ASN, she handled both radiation protection and nuclear safety issues. Before taking up the position of commissioner at the Nuclear Safety Authority in 2017, she was the interministerial delegate for standardization and head of the Department for Standardization, Product Regulation, and Metrology in the French Ministry of the Economy and Finance. Within that role, she coordinated and regulated French standardization system, coordinated a network of regional metrology offices. Ms. Evrard holds an engineering degree, a master's degree in oil and gas operations, and a master's degree in public administration. And she was recently knighted when joining the French Legion of Honor, the highest French order of merit possible. We're honored to have her with us today. Ms. Lydie Evrard, welcome to our show.
Thank you very much for this very comprehensive, description of my professional background. So very comprehensive. So congratulations, because I don't think that you missed anything. So it's a very thank you once again, and thank you for your welcome.
Well, no, thank you so much. I tried to do my comprehensive background, but it's been truly a very interesting journey that you've been on. I would very much just like to start out, talking a little bit about sort of the early days and this interesting journey, sort of starting in hydrocarbons, moving into sort of the environment, and then ultimately towards the regulation and monitoring of all things nuclear. Talk a little bit about your background and a little bit about this early journey, because I really think it's a fascinating sequence of events.
Okay, so we will start from the very beginning. So in fact, even before, the hydrocarbon, position in the Ministry of Industry, I think it's more about, the choice I made when I decided to join the ministry as a civil servant. So I think it's probably was the very beginning of this. Of course, considering my technical and engineering background, it was more from the technical side. So that was the first position in the Ministry of Industry, with this technical post with hydrocarbons. But at the same time, this experience provided me with this opportunity to work on policy, public policy matters. So it's not only the technical perspective, but something I experienced very, very early in my career was about, combining technical matters together with policy, public policy matters. And in fact, I observed when I including with my first position, that it was indispensable to have these different components. It's not only, having this technical perspective and then, other people dealing with policy matters. I think both are needed, and that was probably a lesson I learned from the very beginning. That if you want to address properly the biggest challenges, I think you need to combine different, knowledge and different expertise. So that was the beginning of my professional choices. And when you look at my professional, itinerary, I think this is something we can observe, on a regular, basis. That combining different experiences, different perspective, seems to be very, to me, indispensable.
And it's very interesting you talk about some of those different perspectives and bringing together these different knowledge bases. You published a very interesting paper back in January of 2020 when you were with the French Nuclear Safety Agency. It was in the Annals of Mines, entitled "The Challenges of Nuclear Safety and Protection from Radiation in France." And sort of in this paper is a very interesting sort of microcosm, I would say, of everything that you're now doing, and we'll get to at IAEA. And you point out in the paper, this responsibility is not just about monitoring these nuclear power plants here, but we have to keep them operating longer nowadays. We have to monitor the old ones. We have to deal with the waste. We have to think about other areas of radiation in our life, from radionuclides in medicine and so forth. Talk a little bit about this paper, why you wrote it, and really how it encompasses, as you were saying, a lot of what you were just talking about in both the technical world and the policy side.
Yes, I think there is a link, between the two aspects. It's about, I would say, the social component. So when we discussed nuclear matters, whatever your perspective, I think you need to address or to be aware of what kind of questions that can raise for the public in general. So, and in particular, I was head of the department for waste management, and waste management safety. You cannot deal with waste management without including this topic on social acceptance, and to include all this perception, because we are talking about technical matters for hundreds of thousands of years. So it's something probably beyond the human history. So we are talking about something that is very deeply, embedded in many of our lives. It's about future generations, but not only future generations, something very far from today. So I think it's very important to keep this in mind, that if you want to move forward efficiently on very sensitive matters, including on nuclear safety and security, I think we need to include this different, perspective, and to be able to deal with all of them together. Sometimes it's a bit conflicting, so you have to make some choice, or at least to explain your choice in the proper, in a proper manner, to make people, aware of why you made this decision and the arguments, that lie behind. And that's exactly the objective of the French Nuclear Safety Authority, and with all these principles about transparency. It's not only about our technical choices, but that includes other, components such as policy, matters, and social acceptance as well, and to be able to provide the right answers to the public.
Now, in transitioning from the French Nuclear Authority into your current role at IAEA, you lead, this amazing group at the Nuclear Safety and Security Unit. And, when one goes to the IAEA website and looks at your responsibilities here, they are quite broad and extensive, everything from government, legal, regulatory frameworks, human factors, obviously the management of nuclear materials, waste, emergency preparedness and response, and the list goes on and on. Could you talk a little bit about your general role now at IAEA, sort of a little bit about what your typical day is like, where obviously where the directives come from? Obviously, when there's emergencies, you need to run to those, but a little bit about sort of the overall ecosystem surrounding nuclear safety and security that you are now responsible in this very important role.
Okay, so to describe maybe very concisely how we work within the department. So we address all topics related to nuclear safety, including radiation safety, so radiation protection issues, and security. And in addition, the Incident and Emergency Center is hosted, in the department. So the technical scope of our activities is very, very broad. So this is because, in fact, as when you use, some nuclear, activities or facilities, of course, there are always some potential harmful effects. So, in fact, nuclear safety and security are everywhere. So, of course, you have to deal with this in a commensurate manner. So, depending on how dangerous it is, or if it's more or less dangerous, you have to adapt. But in fact, when you use these nuclear technologies, there are always some issues with potential harmful effects. So that's why the scope is so wide. Now, coming back to our activities, I would say that we have three main activities. The first one is about establishing international standards for safety and security. So these standards are developed with member states. So closely work with member states to elaborate these international standards, which are the international references, in fact, for many, member states. This is the first, part of our job. Secondly, we provide support to member states for them to implement these international standards for safety and security. Because, of course, once you have established these standards, what is as important, equally important, is to implement, effectively these standards. So we provide support to member states for them to implement these safety standards. And the last important point of our, job is about providing member states with what we call capacity building. So it's to support and to help, countries to develop, strengthen their national frameworks for nuclear safety and security. So that's how we work on a daily basis with many member states, in fact, with different expectations, but with this possibility for the department to provide ad hoc services. So we can have very, let's say, standardized services, but at the same time, we can deliver some very specific services. And that's exactly what we are doing with Ukraine, with Japan, the safety review in Japan. So it depends. We are at the service of member states, and we develop services depending on their needs, of course.
And continuing along, that line of thought, very recently your group published this report from the Director General, Nuclear Safety, Security, and Safeguards in Ukraine. And there's an interesting example there that you were just mentioning about specifically about a country, obviously Fukushima, Japan, and so forth. Talk to us a little bit about the role of those other countries, because obviously you have the core responsibility there, and that we see you on TV, and you have to go analyze these situations. It's very scary situations in some cases. What is the role of the international community? Sort of where does IAEA's role and Ukraine's role sort of merge, or Japan's role with IAEA? How does talk a little bit of how that works in terms of the individual country's responsibility in the relationship as well with IAEA?
So first of all, nuclear safety and security are sovereign responsibilities. So what I mean is it's not up to the agency to have this responsibility for safety and security. It's up to the state to ensure this responsibility. But the agency provides support to help, countries and member states to implement nuclear safety and security measures to prevent an accident from happening. So if we have these very simple messages, it's how the different the respective responsibilities are distributed. Safety and security are national responsibilities, but the agency can provide support, and I think the agency has this unique position to be able to collect different experiences and then to provide support based on good practices through safety standards and security guidance, but including through peer reviews. So that means that we can provide, on-site missions to support member states for them to improve their capacity. In Ukraine, it's of course it's unprecedented because we are, talking about safety and security in war times. So it's something I would not say that that's never happened in the past, but not in such a large scale, I would say. With this kind of facilities, a large fleet of nuclear facilities, so nuclear power plants, but research facilities, waste disposal. So there is a wide range of nuclear facilities in Ukraine in war times. That means that we have to deal with nuclear safety and security under unprecedented circumstances. How can you protect a nuclear facility from, any consequences linked to military activities? That's something very challenging. And that's where the agency can help. First of all, we are delivering some equipment, to provide support to Ukraine. So nuclear safety and security equipment. This is the first part of our, mission. And of course, we provide Ukraine with technical support, with missions on site. So we went to Ukraine many times now, to South Ukraine, to Chernobyl, to Zaporizhzhia, of course. And we have some experts, on site with a kind of a continued presence at Zaporizhzhia. And they observe and they report on safety and security issues linked to the current situation. So that's how we can, provide support, even if it's not our direct responsibility to ensure safety and security. We provide support to help Ukraine to ensure this responsibility.
Excellent, excellent. Lydie, a key, topic or set of topics for us on the show is innovation and emerging technologies. We just, a couple of months ago, we spent a little time on an episode with someone from the United States, NNSA, National Nuclear Security Administration, talking about tools like artificial intelligence and some of these next generation monitoring tools for nuclear. We also talked a little bit about sort of the next generation stuff that's coming down the pike, whether that's things like molten salt reactors and so forth, sort of safer next generation. Talk a little bit about how IAEA goes about sort of evaluating various novel technologies, emerging technologies, from both the perspective of safety as well as security.
So that's a very, challenging new topic with the development of SMRs, so the small and modular reactors, and more generally about, innovative technologies. Because of course, our safety standards and nuclear security guidance have been developed, with, let's say, a fleet of reactors that is pretty different from what we can observe today. At the same time, of course, these new technologies can provide member states with new solutions to combat climate change or to meet increased global energy demand. So, there are some increasing expectations from member states to have the possibility to use this kind of new technologies, and we experience at the same time some emerging issues linked to safety and security. It's not necessarily something in a negative manner. What I mean, of course, with a small and modular reactors, you can have benefit from, including from the safety and security perspective. But what is challenging is to have the proper assessment on safety and security, considering the specificities of these new technologies. And that's exactly what we are doing with the review of our safety standards and security guidance, considering the specificities of SMRs, so small and modular reactors, and to identify where some additional guidance would be needed. So that's, a process. So first of all, we reviewed the needs, and then we are now in the process of working on what would need to be, added to the current existing standards. So that's the general approach. We have launched a new initiative called NESI, the New Nuclear Harmonization and Standardization Initiative. This is an initiative launched by the IAEA Director General, so it was launched a few months ago now. And under this new initiative, we are aimed at providing more support to member states for them to deploy safe and secure SMRs. So that's something new, pretty ambitious, because we would like to put together, governments, regulators, technology holders, operators, and other international organizations to facilitate international cooperation on advanced reactors. So that will be this new, the objective of this new initiative is to avoid duplication, for instance, on licensing matters, and to be more efficient at the international level, and to facilitate, experience sharing with this ultimate objective to deploy safe and secure SMRs, but of course in the most efficient manner, considering the expectations and the resources of the international community.
And keeping this theme in mind now, obviously, as we move forward into the future with these technologies, these novel operating models and so forth, we have to think of the next generation that's coming down the line that's going to be using these tools, thinking of the new tools and developing them, whether it's technologies or regulatory systems or what have you. IAEA has been very active with their young professional competitions, and I noticed there was an announcement of one recently looking at sort of effective nuclear and radiation regulatory systems. Very important to get the next generation interested, but also on the cutting edge of what's happening. Talk a little bit about the Young Professionals Competition, how these work, and a little bit of sort of the history of this within IAEA.
So I think it's a very challenging, but at the same time indispensable, way we need to look at more closely, because first of all, when you look at what is needed to ensure robust safety and security, first of all, you need a kind of diversity of perspectives. What I mean, if you have a single perspective, I think you would miss some of this, the key component to ensure safety and security. And part of this diversity comes from the young generations, for sure. That's the first point. I think they can have, different perspective, and then they can provide very valuable, input in how to strengthen nuclear safety and security in their countries, but at the international level. And the second, of course, benefit is to have, young generations on board, and for them to engage in the nuclear field, and then to be able to provide, some workforce for the future. So this is something, a challenge, but at the same time, we are committed, to engage with young generations, and that's why we have so many, opportunities, and we take any opportunities with international conferences to call for, young generations input contributions, because it's a kind of how to make them more visible, and then to attract other, young people to the nuclear field.
Well, along that topic, I have a son. He's 17 now, but he caught the nuclear bug, I think, when he was like 10 years old, and he would give presentations in school on Chernobyl and molten salt reactors and all these topics we're talking about. He formed a little club at his school, but very few people joined because, somebody would always say Chernobyl, Fukushima, and so they didn't have the turnout that he wanted. But that being said, as obviously it's 2022, a lot of energy issues going on in the world. We're trying to get to net zero. What is the conversation that you find like nowadays when we're dealing with, okay, on one hand, people want to talk about Fukushima and Chernobyl. On the other hand, we need, we're at a point where we have safe technologies. We're looking to get to zero It seems like these two issues shouldn't be fighting one another anymore in 2022, but talk a little bit about, what you hear, and then obviously what you say when you're out there talking to people in the sort of the general thought leadership space.
Mm-hmm. So that's a very, tricky point, because I think I'm not sure that there is a ideal neutrality on nuclear matters. But I mean, I think many people have a kind of a priori, could be positive or negative, but it's very difficult to have this kind of objective, approach. So that's probably one of the missions when you look at how regulatory bodies, work. And the Department of Safety and Security is aimed at providing this kind of objective assessment. That's how we are proceeding. For instance, for the safety review in Japan, we are reviewing all the plans prepared by Japan before the release of the treated water into the sea. So it's about objective, assessment based on safety and security considerations. So, of course, nuclear energy and nuclear applications, more broadly, I think, provide many benefits to people, because we are talking about nuclear energy. But if you consider, nuclear applications, in particular in the medical field, they provide a lot of benefit to people, and that can save people. But at the same time, there are some potential harmful effects when you consider these nuclear technologies and the activities. So that's exactly where, we need nuclear safety and security. It's a continuous process. There have been some severe accidents in the past, but not so many. A few of them. You mentioned the most significant accident with Fukushima, Chernobyl, and there are some others as well. But I think we are, continuously learning from this past accident. That's something very specific to the nuclear sector, that for safety and security, we analyze, what happened, and we, learn from this, and these lessons, are implemented, at least the consequences, the implications are implemented to strengthen nuclear safety and security worldwide. So it's a continuous process, very specific, of course, very demanding, and we need to have an objective, assessment. So with no complacency, you have to look at what failed, in fact, and to take some, to learn from this, and to implement new measures as needed. And after Fukushima, there were many, additional measures in many countries to strengthen nuclear safety and security. That means that we are able to learn from the past and to make things, even better, or let's say more robust, to prevent a nuclear accident.
One last thing, Lydie. When several months ago, Dr. Makhtar joined us on the show talking about nuclear sciences, and she introduced us to the, in addition to everything she was doing, this interesting Zodiac project related to nuclear and obviously preventing future pandemics. Any other interesting stories from your specific unit? Anything you could tell us about things that are coming up? Obviously, we see you in the press and on the TV a lot with regard to the Chernobyl stuff. I mean, the Ukraine stuff. Any other things happening for the rest of 2022? Other initiatives, conferences that you may be presenting at? Anything else that you want to mention while we have you today? Please have the floor.
Okay, so thank you. So we organized last week, so I think that's worth mentioning, an international conference of new technologies and new design. So I think that's probably part of, there are challenges for the coming years, because that will be a very big challenge, for safety, security, and for the other components to be able to move forward on these with these new technologies. But we are talking about, 80 new technologies when you look at the SMR. So it's not only a single, technology, it's something much wider. So I think these kind of topics will be part of our, future, for sure, for nuclear safety and security. I think what will be very helpful is to be able to move forward with a better, cooperation between the different players, because it's not only a matter of nuclear safety and security. It's a matter of course, technology development. So that means that we should find a way to better integrate, safety, security, and technology as early as it is possible in the process. So I think we will probably learn from this in the future. So to me, SMRs, new technologies, they are promising, but at the same time, they are challenging. So I think that we should take some benefit from this in the future to strengthen nuclear safety and security while, providing member states with the possibility to use these technologies. There will be maybe in the longer term, probably new issues with artificial intelligence, I think, because this is part of our background, even if it depends on the field, the technical field. But I do believe that AI could play a role in the way we could strengthen nuclear safety and security. Could be, through monitoring with data analysis. So many, so that's probably one of the topic we will need to explore further in the future. We have already started some, thoughts on this, but I think we should probably move forward on this. And of course, the two topics we already mentioned with Ukraine and Fukushima Alps water, I think that will remain for different reasons, of course, but they will remain very high on our agenda for the coming months with this objective to provide the support needed in these two very different areas. Once again, but very specific, assistance provided by the agency.
Excellent, really excellent. It's a quite amazing portfolio, Lydie, that you're responsible for it. I'm glad you're there doing this with your team and really keeping on the frontier of everything that's happening in this space to keep us all safe, both people and the environment. For everybody that is going to be listening to this particular episode of our show across the various podcast networks or watching on the YouTube channel, again, you've been listening to Lydie Evrard, Deputy Director General and Head of the Department of Nuclear Safety and Security, International Atomic Energy Agency. We will put links to her bio and her unit's information in the bio of the show. Lydie, I want to thank you again for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to come talk to us for a little while about all these topics. Obviously, thank you for everything you're doing there to keep us all safe. And as we say on our show, thanks for helping to create a better and safer tomorrow via what you're doing for all of us. A really very impressive story.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ira.
Good seeing you.